Hello, my name is Father Mike Ford, and I'm the director of the Dominican Shrine of St. Jude. And this is opcentral.org's Know Before You Go series, which is aimed at helping people be better prepared for Mass. This Sunday is March 22nd. It's the fifth Sunday of Lent. And depending upon what parish you're at, you could experience one of two gospel readings. The first one, John 11, 1-45, is the wonderful story of Jesus raising Lazarus from the dead. It's an interesting story because it's an interesting part of this because this particular reading would go for people who are entering the church or who are going through the scrutinies, as we call them. It's aimed at showing people this notion of, to be a follower of Christ, we need to die to ourselves, as they will do in baptism, and rise again as a new creation in Christ for, during that wonderful season of Easter. And many of the people who would have witnessed this particular miracle of Jesus were people who were from Jerusalem. Now keep in mind that things are really ramping up in our Gospels and in the readings that we're having. We're almost at the Passion. This is within a week or two of Jesus' triumphant entry into Jerusalem. And that many of the people, and the reason they were so excited about him coming to Jerusalem, was that they had heard the accounts of Lazarus being raised from the dead. Now, of course, this buzz would have been reached more than people who were simply of the house of Israel. At that time, just like in our day, when there's a big festival or something large, some large community celebration going on, visitors from all over the world, like, say, for example, Mardi Gras in New Orleans, people come to take part in those festivities. So there were many, many people in Jerusalem at the time, and some of these people were Greeks. And the only reason I mention this is that our second reading, if you're going to be on the regular cycle A reading, where people aren't going to be received into the church this Easter, you'll hear John 12, 20-33, which starts with a group of Greeks, visitors who would have heard about all this guy Jesus. They wanted to come meet him, and they came to someone named Philip, one of the apostles, who Philip is actually a Greek name. So they started with someone they knew and asked to be introduced to Jesus. And Jesus gives what might sound at first to be like a little bit different take on what's going on. He talks to them and he gives the wonderful parable about, unless a grain of wheat falls, it only remains a single grain. But if it falls and dies, it produces much fruit. And there's that same theme of dying to self, and rising from the dead as a new creation in Christ Jesus. Now I think it's interesting that the Greeks were mentioned here because this is the first place in the Gospel, in any of the Gospels, where we hear Jesus speaking to a group of Greeks. But just like the Magi, who were from the East, who took the message of Jesus' birth east, these Greeks were the ones who would later help the church grow because they took that message to the rest of the Western world. So I think that's neat. But this theme of dying to self and rising to new life in Christ is one that no matter where we're at in our faith journey, we can appreciate. Whether we're just beginning our faith life as a Catholic Christian, being prepared to be brought into the church, or whether we're someone who's been maybe struggling through Lent or facing life's difficulties, we can still see that each and every year at Easter, we can prepare ourselves by looking at those places in our lives that we need to let things go, those sins and those things that hold us down, so that we can be reborn each and every year at Easter, which is why we make such a big deal out of these celebrations. Now, of course, in your home parish, your local priest might decide to pick up on other themes. These are very, very rich readings. All of these, and including the readings that I didn't cover, they have themes which can be picked up and worked on. But the idea behind our Know Before You Go series is so that you have the opportunity to anticipate or at least be able to see one take on the Gospels or on the readings so that you can make a comparison. Maybe you come to the conclusion, Father, I hadn't thought about it that way, but that's a great way to look at things. The idea is to be a well-informed Catholic person who knows their faith better and who can share it with others. Again, my name is Father Mike Ford, And this is OP Central's Know Before You Go.